cache, what should we do if you have cache miss?
Find it in memory.
You have to go to the lower level, memory, and if the data is not even in the memory, you have to go to the even lower level disk and fax the data to the memory and the data to the cache, and then send it back to the register. So this whole loop is going to take a quite long time, and we say it is miss penalty. Okay, miss penalty is actually the extra store cycles you will have if there is a cache miss. Okay. So if we have miss penalty, how to calculate the CPU time? Also, if we have the cache miss, how to calculate the CPU time? Cache miss will cause pipeline stores, right? So we can use the same equation here. Assume that we don't have any other pipeline store, just the pipeline store caused by the cache miss. Then the total number of cycles equals to this one. And the store cycles, we give it a name, says memory store cycles, because we only consider the memory case, or say we only consider that the cache miss. So we put a memory store cycles there. You can have whatever other types of store cycles, but in this case, in this course, we only consider the memory store cycles. We don't consider any other kind of store cycles caused by other types of pipeline hazards. So that is why we have an equation here, CPU time now becomes IC times CPI. CPI here is the ideal CPI. Or the CPI already considered all the other types of pipeline hazards, plus the memory store cycles times the clock cycle time. Any questions here? We had a long discussion before about if we have pipeline stores, how to calculate the total number of clock cycles. Any questions here? Okay. So now the question is how to get the memory store cycles, which is actually the miss penalty times something. Okay. How to get the memory store cycles? Think about if we have one miss, if you have one cache miss, the memory store cycles actually means one miss penalty, right? Because one cache miss will cause one miss penalty. Miss penalty, we can use different unit. It can be number of cycles. Let's consider it's the number of cycles in the unit of number of cycles. So the total number of store cycles of executing the whole program, how to get it? How to get the total number of memory store cycles when we execute the entire program. Depends on how many misses you have, right? One miss costs this amount of miss penalty, and if we know this number of misses times the miss penalty, we will be able to get, this is the number of memory store cycles. Any questions here? If you have one cache miss, it will take this amount of the time to get the data, and this amount of the time costs the pipeline stores. So we have this amount of store cycles for one miss. And when you execute the whole program, you get this number of cache misses. So you get totally number of misses times the miss penalty. This is the total number of memory store cycles. Okay, any questions? In this slide, you're gonna see a lot of terminologies and several equations here. They are pretty important equations. So if you have any question, feel free to ask me. All right, now let's move further. Number of misses. Number of misses, we can further write it as can you put it here? Number of misses can be how many instructions you have, number of instructions times miss rate per instruction. So number of instructions times miss rate per instruction. Miss rate per instruction actually means number of misses over IC, right? This is the definition of miss rate per instruction. How many misses you have per instruction equals to the total number of cache misses you have divided by the total number of instructions. So that we have the number of total cache misses equals to number of instructions, or say IC times miss rate per instruction. So that we can write the equation back to the CPU time, this equation, stall cycles, we can write it as maybe just IC. IC times miss rate per instruction times what? This part, IC times miss rate per instruction, you got total number of misses, right? Times what?
Miss penalty.
So this is one way to get the memory stall cycles. And we do have another terminology here, which is miss rate per reference. Okay, pay attention. These two, they are different. Miss rate per instruction is total number of misses over IC. But miss rate per reference is total number of misses. You can guess it, right? Divided by what? Total number of memory references, right? Total number of memory references, because it says miss rate per reference. It's talking about how many misses you have per memory reference. Everybody knows memory reference? Means whenever you have memory access, it is one memory reference, right? Okay. So the major difference between these two is the bottom part. This is memory references. This is the number of instructions. Okay. Now let me ask you a question. So for example, I have 1,000 instructions. I have 1K instructions, and in this program, 1K instructions, and I get totally maybe 20 cache misses. And for this 1,000 instructions, 20% are store and load instructions. Can you tell me what is the miss rate per instruction? What is the miss rate per reference? Miss rate per instruction is very straightforward. It is 20 misses over 1K, right? Miss rate per instruction. How about miss rate per reference? We know number of misses, but how to get number of memory references?
20 by 800.
20 by what?
200.
100 what?
200 memory.
20 by 800.
20 by 800? Okay. Actually, the question is how to calculate the number of memory references.
Yeah.
Let's
For
think
load and
about,
store.
we have 3 types of instructions. ALU instruction, load, store instruction, and the branch instruction. Okay, 3 types of instructions. And let's first talk about for ALU instructions. How many memory references per ALU instruction? For any ALU instruction, how many memory references we can have? 0? 0? 2?
1.
Okay. ARU instruction. This is the example. Add a 1 or 2 or 3. And I remember I had the discussion about for this we have to go through fetch, decode, execution, and write back, but it doesn't have any memory access, right? Although it will go through the memory stage during the pipeline execution, but it doesn't really do anything during the memory stage. It just keeps idle. This is the fundamental idea of pipeline. Even though you don't need to do memory access, you still have to take that slot. But let's back to the question. For this kind of instruction, how many memory accesses we have? 0? 4? It has to go through fetch. Okay, during the fetch, what happens? You need to go to the memory to get the instruction. So this is one memory access, right? Okay, and then it has decode. The decode has no memory access. Execution, no memory access, and then write back. So for ARU instruction, we have one memory access. Okay. How about the load store instructions? How many memory accesses we have? Load store?
2.
We're gonna have 2, right? That's because it has to go through fetch, decode, execution, and memory. For store, it doesn't go to the write back, but for load instruction, it has write back. But doesn't matter. This kind of instructions, memory access instructions, they have 2 memory accesses per instruction. So one is for instruction access, another one is for data access. Pay attention to that. Okay, finally the branch instruction, how many memory accesses?
1.
It's just 1, because it just needs to go to the memory for the instruction fetch, the instruction memory access. So from this analysis, we can see at least each instruction requires 1 memory access, right? Because anyway, you need to go to the instruction memory to get the instruction. So no matter what type of instruction it is, anyway, you need 1 memory access for the instruction access. Okay, now back to the example here. It tells you we have 20% load store instructions. Then how many memory accesses do we have in this example? First, you have 1K instructions, so that you have 1K instruction memory references, right? We just talked about it. Each instruction will have 1 instruction memory access. Okay. And load store instruction, they have extra 1 data memory access. So we have to add how many here? 200, right? Because you have 20% load store instructions. This 200 will be the data memory references. So total will be 1,200 memory references. So the miss rate will be 200 over 1,200. 20, sorry. We have 20 misses. This is the miss rate per reference. So now you see the difference between miss rate per instruction and miss rate per reference. Which one will be higher? Which one will be higher? Huh? Miss rate per instruction, right? Because you always, so this is something, a tip you can have. Number of memory references is always larger than IC. Because larger or equal. If you do not have any memory access instruction, then the total number of memory references equals to the total number of instructions. But it will never be smaller than the number of instructions. Okay. Now let's move further. So we can further write miss rate per instruction in another way. Let me write it here. Miss rate per instruction write it in this way. Number of ECE, ECEs, sorry, memory references. Number of ECEs, ECE times number of memory references, number of memory references. It's pretty straightforward. Just add this part on top of it. This is what. And further see if we use this. What is it? Total number of misses over total number of memory references. It is
Per reference.
miss rate per references. So the miss rate per instruction equals to miss rate per references times number of memory references over IC. And this part, we give it a name that says the percentage of memory references. So this is percentage of memory references. So you can see this is a very important equation here, also relation between the miss rate per instruction and the miss rate per reference. Miss rate per instruction equals to miss rate per reference times the percentage of memory references. Keep this in mind. We're going to use this very frequently. Okay, back to the example here. Can you tell me what is the percentage of memory references? What is the percentage of memory references?
1,000 200 by.
So you have problem to see this part? See this equation? I try to avoid using the bottom part of the board, but I don't have enough space.
Did you copy?
Okay, back to this. What is the percentage of memory references?
Percentage of memory references.
Percentage, let me write it here. Percentage of memory references. Percentage of memory references equals to number of memory references over IC. So back to this example, we have how many memory references? 1,200, right? How many instructions? 1,000. So
120%.
it's 120%. Okay, this is another tip. Percentage of memory references, it will always be larger or equal to what? Right? It's the same idea here because you always have the number of memory references more than the total number of instructions. So the percentage of memory references is always higher than 100%. All right, so back to this equation again. The memory store cycles, if we would like to represent it by using miss rate per reference, how to write it? How to write it? Miss rate per reference.
Miss rate per reference into percent of memory.
If we want to write it as miss rate per reference, it's actually put this equation to replace the miss rate per instruction, right? So that we have IC times miss rate per reference times percentage of memory references times miss penalty. Okay, if you cannot see this part, this is what we have in the slide. We have the memory store cycles equals to IC times the percentage of memory references times miss rate per reference times miss penalty. So two equations or two ways to calculate the memory store cycles given either miss rate per instruction or either miss rate per reference. So the whole slide here, you need to understand a very important relation between miss rate per instruction and miss rate per reference. This is pretty important. No question, then we go for example. We have a computer with CPI equals to 1 when all memory access is in cache. So this is actually the ideal CPI for the pipeline. And the only data accesses are loads and stores, and this account for total 50% of the instructions. If the miss penalty is 25 clock cycles, and miss rate per reference is 2%. Pay attention, miss rate per reference, 2%. How much faster would the computer be if all instructions resulted in a cache heap? How much faster? What does this mean? You need to calculate the speed up, right? Remember we said we're never asking about faster or something, it's asking about the speed up. So if we want to calculate the speed up, it's asking about the CPU time. And therefore, if you have all instructions resulted in a cache heap, what is the CPU time?
Number of instructions.
It means there is no store cycles, right? It's just the IC times CPI times clock cycle time. Okay, but you need to figure out what is the CPU time if you have cache miss. Okay, use the equations I have here and try to figure it out. I give you maybe a couple of minutes. Okay, do you have the answer now? Which equation you gonna use here? Which one? This one or this one? The bottom or the top? The miss rate per reference or miss rate per instruction?
Miss rate per instruction.
Miss rate per reference. Okay, so if we use that equation, it will be IC times CPI plus IC times miss rate per reference times percentage of memory references times miss penalty. All 1 times IC. Of course, the bottom is also 1 clock cycle time. The question is, what is the miss rate per reference? 2%. It is in the question. What is the percentage of memory references? What is the percentage of memory references? It says there we have load store instructions accounts for a total 50% of the instructions, so that we have 1 plus 50%, right? We just talk about 50%. This means the data part. 1 here is the instruction part. Okay, so this is the total percentage of memory references times the miss penalty, 25 clock cycles. So we have all this together, which will be 1 plus 75% IC over IC times the, just the IC. Clock cycle time, we already have it here. Oh, here I forgot to put clock cycle time. So we have 1.75. Questions? Okay, the second question is, what if the miss rate is 30 misses per 1,000 instructions? It's asking about the same question, how much faster would the computer be if the miss rate is 30 misses per 1,000 instructions? So now we're going to use this equation, right? Miss rate per instruction is 30 over 1,000. Miss penalty is 25. Times this together. Actually, it is the same one, 1.75. Questions? Okay. Answers will be on the textbook page. Now we are in the appendix B. Okay, we are talking about the stuff from appendix B. So it will be on page B, 5 to 6. So now, starting from now, when we talk about miss rate, we usually mean miss rate per reference. Pay attention to that. If anytime we say miss rate is blah, 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 then miss rate is miss rate per reference. Only if we say miss rate per instruction, it means miss rate per instruction. But if we didn't say anything, just say miss rate, it's miss rate per reference. Okay, now let's see the 4 cache questions for the cache hierarchy. This is actually about if we are going to design the cache, the 4 key questions for the cache design. So we have 4 questions. The first question is, where can a block be placed in the upper level? Do you still remember what is a block? We introduced the last time. What is block?
Data fetch taken from the memory.
It's the basic unit in
Fixed
the cache,
size.
right? Because whenever you have a cache miss, you are going to the memory to get a block into the cache. You are not going to just get just like a 4 bytes or 8 bytes. It's gonna be a larger unit, and we say it is a block. So, in other words, we can say cache is composed of blocks. Okay, so if you are designing the cache, of course, whenever you fetch a data from the memory, we need to think about where shall we put that block. Of course, cache composed of thousands of blocks, and you need to figure out a position for this new block you fetched from the memory. So this is the first question, and we say it's about the block placement. The second question is, how is a block found if it is in the upper level? So this is about block identification, or say you have the address of the data, and you need to figure out where the data is in the cache. We need to find it. So this is the block identification. The third question is, which block should be replaced on a miss? So in this case, let's think about, now the cache is full. You already have all the blocks being filled, so cache is full. But now you got a cache miss. what should we do for a cache miss?
We go to the memory.
Go to lower level, get the block, right? Now you fetch it back to the cache. Of course, cache is already full. You don't have more space to hold the block. What can we do? You need to replace one, right? Replace the one already in the cache. And which block should be replaced? This is also a question. And we call this is the block replacement. This is the third question. And the last question is about the cache write. Several write policy we can have for the cache write. So now let's go through these questions one by one. The first question, where can a block be placed in the upper level? Upper level here, you can just understand whenever you get a block from the lower level memory, where can we put it in the cache? Upper level you can consider is cache. Okay, so we have three options here. The first option is shown here. We can push the block anywhere in the cache. For example, this is the cache, this is the memory, and we have total 8 blocks in the cache. This is just the example, okay? Assume that we have 8 blocks in the cache. And now, in the memory, you have one block, and you would like to fetch it into the cache. The first design option is we want to put it into anywhere of this cache. So you can put it from 0 to 7. That is why we have all the blue lines here, just to show that you can put it anywhere. And we call this is the fully associative cache. If you can put the block anywhere, it's fully associative. And of course, we can have the other extreme case. This is one extreme case. You can put it anywhere. We can have the opposite extreme case. What is that? It means you can only put it in one fixed place. So this is the second option design, which is called direct mapped. You can only put the block at a fixed place in the cache. Then you ask the question, where can I get that fixed place? How do we get that fixed place? We have an index here. Index tells you which block you should go to. Put this block in, which position you should put the block in. And then the way to calculate is use the block address mode the cache size. Okay, let me draw something here. First, let me explain what is the block address. So everybody knows this instruction, right? For this instruction, what is the address you are going to access the memory? How to get the address? The address is 8 plus the value in the R2, right? And how many bits we will have for this? If the register has 32 bits, usually it's gonna be 32 bits, right? If the register size is 32 bits, one register holds 4 bytes, and then this will be 32 bits. And this 32 bits is used as the address to index the memory, right? But now we have a cache. So you know that whenever you have memory access, you should first go to the cache instead of memory. So we're gonna use this 32-bit address to index the cache to see if the data is there or see if the block is there. So that let's assume this is 32-bit, 0 to 31. Again, this is address. This is our data. This is the address you are going to use to index the cache, to index the memory. Okay? But think about cache is composed of blocks, right? What we need is the block address, or say which block we should go to check. So hopefully now you understand the idea of, let's say this is the cache. Cache is composed of number of blocks, and each block is composed of number of bytes. Remember last time we talked about this? Block size is much much larger than a word. Okay? So, but this one, this load instruction, it just needs how many bytes?
32.
Just the 4 bytes, 32 bits, right? It's probably in this block at this location. If you are going to use this address to index the cache, how can we get this data? You need to first figure out this block is the one I need to go to access. And then you need to figure out, starting from this byte, I'm going to read 4 bytes, right? 32 bits. Put it into register, R1. Right? So this 32-bit address will be composed of 2 parts. Which 2? We need 2 information to get this 4 bytes. Which 2 information? First information is we need to figure out which block you should go to, right? Second information is you need to know, starting from which byte in this block, we are going to get the data. So this part, we call it is the block offset. Block offset. We need a block offset, and we need which block, or say block address. So we have block address under block offset. Since for the 32-bit address, no matter it's 32 bits or whatever, how many bits you have for this address, because nowadays we have 64-bit machine. If 64-bit machine means the address, we have 64 bits, right? So now we have block address and block offset. Block address tells you which block, and block offset tells you starting from which byte we should start to read to get this 4 bytes. So back to this one. If we have the direct mapped cache, or say you can only put the block into a fixed place of the cache, how to figure out that location? How to figure out the location? The index will be block address. This is the block address. Mode, total number of blocks in cache. Block address. In this example, what is the block address? In this example, this block, if we would like to fetch this block into the direct mapped cache, 12 is the block address. Okay? And in this example, how many blocks we have in the cache?
8.
How many blocks? We have 8, right? So that the index will be 12 mode 8, which is 4, which means we should put into the fourth position, actually index 4 position. This is actually the fifth blocks in the cache. This is called direct mapped. Okay, let's say another example. If now I have block 10, if I'd like to put this one into the direct mapped cache, what is the index? What is the index? If we have 10,
2.
it will be 10 mode 8, 2. So we should put it into index 2, which is this one. So from this example, you can see every block has its fixed location when we fetch it into the cache. And this kind of design, we say it is direct mapped. Okay, and the third design is kind of a mix between the fully associative and the direct mapped. It is set associative. The idea is this one is kind of too large. You can put it anywhere. Too flexible. This one is too fixed. You can only put it into one location. I would like to have a mix. It has some flexibility, but it still has some fixed area. So we would like to put the block into anywhere within a fixed set of places or restricted set of places. This is called set associative. So in this case, we introduce the idea of sets. Pay attention. So today, actually, we use a lot of terminologies. Now we introduce a new terminology for the cache design, which is set. Set is composed of a number of blocks. Okay, and if we have the block address 12, and we would like to put it into a set associative cache, because pay attention, set associative cache means you can put any value in one specific set. So we need to find out the set index. For the direct map, you need to find out the block index. That is only one block location you can put the block in. For set associative, the idea is to find the index of the set so that you can put any value within that set. For example, in this case, total number of set is 4. Two-way set associative. Okay, here now we have another way, means number of blocks in one set. So set contains a number of blocks, and the way means total number of blocks in one set. And back to this example, if we have two-way set associative, it means we have 2 blocks in one set. And if we have total number of blocks in the cache, it equals to way times number of sets. Hopefully you understand the set and the weight now. Total number of blocks in the cache equals to number of the blocks in one set times the total number of sets. Back to this example. If we have two-way set associative and the total number of blocks in the cache is 8, then how many sets we have? 4, right? Total we have 8 blocks, two-way in one set, so that we have 4 sets. And now if we would like to put the block into this set associative cache, we just need to get the set index. The set index should be the block address mode number of sets in the cache. So back to the example here. If we have block 12, we would like to put into the two-way set associative cache. What is the index? We just need the set index, right? Set index will be block address is 12. Number of sets we have here is 4. So it is 0. We should put it into set 0. This is, let me draw the figure here. Now, we have the cache. This will be set 0. This will be set 1, set 2, and set 3. Therefore, you can have, if you have block 12, you can put into set 0 any blocks in set 0. That is why we have 2 blue lines here. Shows you can put any of these 2. Okay, let me ask you a question. What if block 10? Which set shall we put? If we have a block 10.
10 mod 6.
It's 10 mod 4, right? So should be in which one? Set 2. Should be any of these two blocks in set 2. All right. Now let me change the example a little bit. If we have still block 12, but it becomes a 4-way set associative cache, where should we put the block 12?
Z.
Now it becomes a 4-way.
0.
This example
Set
is
one.
a 2-way, means you have what, 2 blocks in one set. But now we change it to 4-way set associative. What does it mean?
4.
One set has 4 blocks,
4
right?
blocks.
So how many sets you have then?
Those sets.
Only 2 sets. So block 12 will be put into
0.
set 0, right?
Set 0.
And block 10 will be set 0 as well. So in that case, we will have these 4 blocks set 0 and these 4 blocks set 1. Okay. Any questions? So for the cache design, if we set associative, usually at most we can have 16 ways. At most. Most of the case it will be 4-way or 8-way. 16 it's very rarely happens. 4 or 8. I guess 8 is even maximum, but 4 is a common case. 4-way set associative. Now you see fully associative and direct mapped and set associative. Fully associative is one extreme case of set associative. Why do I say that? And the direct map is another extreme case of set associative. Let me put it in this way. How many sets you have for fully associative cache?
One.
Only one set, right? Because you can put anywhere, so you can treat the whole cache as just one set. And for the direct mapped cache,
It's the cache
the
set.
number of sets equals to
The number of cache.
the number of cache blocks, so that it is actually a one-way set associative cache. Okay? So now you catch the idea between way and the set. Let me write it here. Direct map is one-way set associative. I put SA here means set associative. And fully associative, it is just one set associative. A whole cache is just one set. Okay. Now we have the question 2, the second question about the cache design. How is a block found if it is in the upper level? I have already talked a little bit about this. We already show it here. For any address, data address, we can divide it into 2 parts, block offset and block address. So whenever we would like to access the memory, we first use the block address to figure out the index, right? You need to figure out what is the set index, or say the index, either the index of the block or for the direct mapped or the set index. You need to have the index tell you, okay, this is the set I would like to access. So for the block address, see, this is the way we get the index. We mode the number of sets. Therefore, we can see the lower part of the block address is used for set index. How about the remaining part here? The most significant bits. This part. Think about, we have the set index just tells you which set you can go to. But the set may contains a number of blocks. And you still need some further information to tell you if this is exactly the block you would like to access. Or even though it's a direct map, this is only one block you have here, but you still need to figure out if this is the block you would like to access. Think about, we have a 32-bit address to tell you the data you would like to access. By the way, the memory is byte addressable. You have the idea about that? Memory is byte addressable. One address indexed to 1 byte in the memory. Do you have idea about that?
Yeah.
If this is the memory, the address we have index here. It is index. This is 1 byte. Do you have idea about that? So if we have, for example, 0x0001 indexed to 1 byte, and then we have 002 indexed to the second byte here, or the following byte here.
Okay.
We say this is memory is byte addressable. So but back to here, 32 bits. This is indexed to 1 byte. Okay? Anyway, block address is much longer than the set index. We still have this remaining part. And this remaining part uniquely identifies this block. Uniquely identifies this block. So that we need this tag part to compare the tag already saved in the cache. Okay, so now I need to draw a figure about how a cache really looks like. Don't have enough space. Based on what you have learned so far, cache is composed of number of blocks, right? This is what you have learned. Let's say this is the cache. It is composed of number of blocks. Okay. But back to the discussion we just had, the block address and the block offset. We just use lower bits, several lower bits of the block address for set index, which means we just use this part of the bits to index the set with the like to access the block of the cache. We still have some remaining bits. This part is, we call it is tag. I say it uniquely defines this specific block. So in order to make sure the 32 bits matches with exactly the 32-bit address you would like to access in the cache, we need to compare this part of the tag with this block's tag. Pay attention. We use this block address, says this is the unique block address for this block, and we just use this part to index the set. Let's say we index to this set. Assume this is just a direct mapped cache. We only have one block in this set. How can you know this block is exactly the block you would like to access? How can you know that? You need to use this remaining bits to figure out this is the same block we would like to access. Right? Because you have this part, the whole part is the block address. How can you know that? We need to do the tag comparison.
Oh, yeah.
Which means now the cache is composed of two parts. One part is called data part, and another part is called tag part. So whenever you put data block into the cache, you have to put a portion of its address into the responding tag part. What is this used for? This one will be used for the tag comparison. So portion of the block address will be saved into this tag array. We usually say it is a tag array. This part, we usually say it is the data array. Now, the whole part is cache. So this is a little bit different from what you thought, I guess. It composes not only the data, it also composes part of the address, block address. Okay. So let's see. If we have this address, 0 to 31-bit, 32-bit address, assume this is a 32-bit machine, we have 32-bit address, and the first thing we need to do is use the set index to index the set. So now this one will index both tag array and data array. Okay, pay attention to that. This tag and the data, they always go together. You index both tag and the data, so now you know this is the set you would like to get the block. You will not be able to get the block from any other sets. This is the only set you can possibly get the block. But you still need to check if this is exactly the block you will access, you would like to access, so that we would like to use this tag part of the address to compare with the tag array, so that we need to compare these two. If it matched, what does it mean? It's a cache hit, right? If it is matched, which means now you got this part matched. You also got this part indexed. This is the exact set you would like to go to. So the whole block address is matched. Therefore, this is the block you should go to access. So that then we will have the block offset to index, to give you the offset, so that you can start to read this part of the data, or either read or write. This is the whole cache access story. And what if it doesn't match? What if it doesn't match? It's a cache miss, right? It means you will not be able to find the exact block in this set. So you have a cache miss. Of course, cache miss, then you have to use the same address to index memory.
Excuse me.
Yes?
Every block has its unique tag, right?
Yes, every block has unique tag.
So
Every
can't we,
block has a unique block address, so that it has unique tag.
so can't we just address the block using the tag?
How can you know this is the one you should go to?
Since it has a unique tag, block address.
You still need to have this part. This part belongs to the block address.
Right.
Yeah, you still need this one to tell you this is the tag address you should go to. The tag part you should go for the comparison.
So tag is mainly when we have two or more blocks
No
in a
matter
set.
no matter you have only one, you have more than one, no matter, doesn't matter. No matter it's fully associative or it's direct mapped, you always need to do the tag comparison. Even though it's direct mapped, doesn't mean if you find one block here, this is the block you need.
Right.
Okay, so the case I draw here is just a direct mapped. Let's see if it is a two-way
I
set
understand
associative.
what you mean.
If it is two-way set associative, actually this is gonna index to two blocks, right? So how many tag comparisons you need to do? Two, exactly. So in this case, you will have to do two tag comparisons. And both they are mismatched, hash miss. You will only be able to find one matched, right? Never can get two matched. You can only get one matched, then it's a hit, hash hit. Okay? And what if it is a fully associative? If it is a fully associative,
It always hits.
you don't need the set index, right?
Yeah.
It's one set. So you're gonna use the whole block address as the tag to do the comparison with every block tag. You need to do all the comparisons. Okay. So now probably you already catch the idea. For fully associative, how many bits we have for the set index? For the fully associative cache, how many bits for the set index? Now we can see for
Zero since there's one set. Yeah.
for the address,
We don't use
we
it.
can partition
Entire
into
thing will
three
be for
parts: block of set,
Block address.
set index, and tag. Okay. For fully associative cache, how many bits we have for set index?
0?
0.
Do you need a set index
No.
for fully?
So
No.
zero.
In that case, 0 set index. So for fully associative cache, actually you just have tag and offset. Okay? For direct mapped, how many bits we have for set index? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So the number of set index to 2 number of set index bits equals to number of blocks. Right? Or log of number of log 2 of number of blocks. Back to the example we had in the previous slide. For example, this one. In this case, two-way set associative, total 8 blocks, direct map. Total we have 8 blocks, then how many bits we have for the set index? How many bits? The question is, for this direct map, the cache, total 8 blocks here, how many bits we're gonna have for set index? It's gonna be 3, right? 2 to the power of 3 equals to 8. And if we have set associative, the number of bits you have for set index equals to log of 2 number of what? Sets, right? Not blocks, but it's number of sets. Depends on how many sets you have. Back to the example here. Two-way set associative, total we have 8 blocks in the cache. How many bits we have for the set index? You catch my question?
You're going too fast.
For this two-way set associative, total 8 blocks. How many bits we have for set index? It's gonna be 2, right? Because we have total 4 sets. So it's gonna be 2 bits for the set index. Okay. And in that case, the number of bits we have for tag we know number of bits for set index is log 2 of number of sets. How about number of bits for block offset? For example, if we know the block size is 16 byte, number of bits for the block offset. If we have a 16 byte block, how many bits you need for the block offset? I already said memory is byte addressable, right? one address indexed to 1 byte. So how many bits you need for the block offset here?
Log 2, 16.
So it is log 2 number of bytes per block. In this case, it will be 4. First 2 to the power 4 equals to 16. Okay. And then finally, number of bits for tag. How many bits we have? Number of bits per tag equals to total number of bits for memory address minus number of bits for set index minus number of bits for block offset. So you can see the number of bits for text is determined by this 3. It's changed based on the cache design. Now let's see an example. I guess I have an example. Oh, it's already almost
The number
half.
of bits for block offset.
Questions?
No, sorry.
Okay.
Which one? Block offset.
Let me go a very quick example. Back to this one. Still use this example. Assume that total we have 8 blocks in the cache. Two-way set associative. Each block has 16 bytes. So for this two-way set associative, block size 16 byte. Number of blocks, let me make it larger, maybe 32. Number of bits for memory address, let's say it is just 8. Maybe 8 is not big enough. Make it 16. Okay. In this example, can you tell me how many bits for offset, block offset? How many bits for set index? How many bits for tag? First, I'm running out of time. I'm going to give you the answer right now. So, first, how many bits for the block offset? It's pretty straightforward, right? Block size 16 bytes, so that we have 4 bits for the block offset. 4. Let me draw the address here. 2 to 15. We have 4 bits here for block offset. How many bits we have for set index? How many sets do you have? Total number of blocks 32, two-way set associative. So you have 32 over 2, 16 sets. So that we need another 4 bits for set index. Okay. Then how many bits you need for the tag? How many bits?
8.
Equation here. 16 here, 4 here, 4 here. So that tag will be 8 bits. Okay? Let me stop here and see you next time.
Ooh, she is flying.
Yeah.
I hope it's not only
Last
me.
part, the testing part was
I hope it's not only me that thinks she's going really fast. It's,
did you hear how quiet it was when she
చాలా చెప్పు నెంబర్ ఆఫ్
Oh, okay. So we need to copy that.
నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ బ్లాక్స్
Minus.
in the program. Basic block is a very general terminology in compiler. For example, you can have, or say, let me first introduce what is basic block. It is a segment of the code with one entrance and one exit. An example of basic block is like this. Number one, you can have some add operation, some sub operation, whatever operation, and then you have B and E. If they are not equal, for example, you go to L1, level 1. What does this mean? This is considered one basic block because for this code segment, you only have one entrance here. Where is the exit? This one, right? You only have one exit. This is considered a basic block. Basic block is a very important terminology used in the compiler. Okay, now let's back to this bulletin. It says, entry point of basic block at the beginning of block. What does that mean? Where is the entry point of the basic block? Entry point is here, right? So we would like to have the entry point of the basic block at the beginning of the cache block. So let's see an example. If this is a cache block, if we have the entry point is here, what will happen? Because this is a basic block, for sure you know when you execute the first instruction, you will execute the next one, you execute third one until the exit of the block, right? But if this cache block only hold this, let's say this is just one instruction here, what will happen? Definitely, you're gonna have a cache miss to hold another block for the following instructions in this basic block, right? Of course, one more cache miss. So the idea of this one is we are going to move the entry point of the basic block to the beginning. Then what is the benefit? You probably don't have any more extra cache miss for this basic block. If this cache block is large enough to hold all these instructions, and then you don't have any cache miss for this basic block. So this is another idea about the compiler. I'm running out of time. Maybe let's stop here. On Monday, I will continue this. And next Wednesday, we'll be giving you some hints for midterm exam. Okay, on top of the source register. Right? Now you are ready. Use this to do the exclusive OR and build the link between this and the weight. So which one is more accurate for the weight prediction? These two techniques, which one is more accurate? Which one is more accurate? This one is more accurate, right? Because how do you calculate the address? You add these two together, you can calculate the address. And now you use these two to predict the weight. So this method is more accurate. But when are you able to get the data? Only when you finish the decode stage, right? Remember fetch, decode, execution? Memory right back? You only get this after you finish the decode stage. And when are you going to start memory access? Once you finish the the execution stage, you will do the memory access. So this information, you get it maybe too late, which means it's not early enough for you to do the prediction. PC, you know it in the fetch stage. Once you start the fetch, you have the PC. So that this one, you can get the weight prediction earlier. This one, you get the prediction more accurate. So two different designs, both of them have pros and cons. Okay, Next, I'm going to talk about how can we predict. See you Monday.
See ya.
What is PC?
Program counter. It is just basically the address to the next instruction.